As all traders chase limitless fortunes and greatness, they share one common belief. Deep in their hearts, they are the chosen ones, destined to attain generational wealth. However, most fail miserably in their attempts, losing millions in a single day. Some, through hard work and a consistent strategy, manage to turn $17,000 into $92,000 in a year. Others come close, driven by sheer luck and determination, turning $55,000 into $115,000 in a month. Yet all of them hope to reach the summit of success, where the legend himself reigns. Previously he made $18 million in just 2 months, and now he's back, gaining $2.5 million in a single day. And it is my honor to present to you the one and only Faustarian 18, who after making $18 million in the first 2 months of 2024 moved the vast majority of gains into dividends and restarted with $500,000 in his trading portfolio. And well, after 2 months he's finally back with another huge gain. He bought the Nvidia dip and is up by more than $1.7 million in a single day. More specifically, he bought 1 week till expiry Nvidia calls on April the 19th, when the stock dropped by 10% for the flimsiest of reasons. SMCI not doing earnings pre-release, which is why this was the easiest dip buy of his life. With his calls with a strike price at $800 multiplying 7 times, and with his calls with a strike price at $120 10xing, he truly made once in a lifetime gain. Except he does this almost every month, which is why it shouldn't come as a surprise that he doesn't just purely YOLO on options. This gain and most of his previous gains came from an options trading strategy called a bull call spread. As the name suggests, this is a bullish strategy, which means that you expect the price of a stock to go up. But in contrast to just buying calls, you buy calls with a lower strike price and sell the same amount of calls with the same expiration date but with a higher strike price. That way you create a spread between the lower and the higher strike price, which is how you limit your maximum loss but also cap your gains. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, you can't really limit your loss without limiting your gains, but this still comes very useful when you bet that a stock will have a limited increase in its price. For example, in this most recent gain he had a bull call spread with a lower strike price at $800 and a higher strike price at $165. When he made the spread, Nvidia was trading at $162, and if the stock stayed below his lower strike price he would have made a max loss. But if the stock rose above the higher strike price, he would have made a max gain, meaning that if the stock goes up any further you don't make any additional gains. And with Nvidia closing at about $177 a week later, he made his bull call spread almost perfectly. But this was not the only trade he made. Across all of his positions in his Coke fund, he's up by almost $6 million since open and by more than $2.5 million in just a day. Now, if you watched my previous videos, you'd know that he was mainly using interactive brokers. But he now got to such a high level that Schwab offered him a bunch of incentives to move, with the biggest one being the commission and the landing rate. He was paying thousands in commission at interactive brokers, and they do not negotiate commissions, and their highest tier is nearly impossible to hit volume wise. Schwab's commission is lower, and he's also house hunting and doesn't want to sell assets, so being able to borrow at 6% is pretty nice, especially since the rate will drop once the Fed starts cutting. And that's why he moved his whole Coke fund from interactive brokers to Schwab. Anyone with success like him is bound to have thousands trying to follow his path, and among them there is just a few who know what they're doing. One such trader who goes by the name of Substantial Milk 9173 likes collecting KMGs and thinks money grows on trees after an absolutely incredible month. He's up by 1,300% or $759,000 and by $240,000 just today. With his account being worth about $115,000, he must have started with about $55,000 a month ago. But it wasn't always like that. He was a long time loser before this incredible month, in which he had 200 QQQ in the money calls and 50 in the money Apple calls that he closed out today. More specifically, the QQQ calls had a strike price at $410 and the Apple calls at $160, with all of them expiring on May the 3rd. And he timed the trade perfectly, because he's been adding QQQ calls since $470 $19, which was pretty much at the bottom of this last month. Now, Apple was just an earnings play that he paid $63k at $173.35 for 50 calls. Yes, you need money to make money, which he figured out as the month turned from good to amazing. But you see, he's a YOLO type of person, so he put everything he made, all $577k, into more calls on the last day, before closing out $115k. Now he's gonna take a break and enjoy the rewards unless opportunity arises. But on his success, he's also thinking of quitting his C-level position and starting a hedge fund, which is an absolutely genius idea based on his full porting strategy. He also has many friends who want in, but he won't do things with their money he does with his, because he's at least aware that he's an extreme risk taker. His strategy is to hold big losses and call himself balls of steel. But there is a lot of education and experience at play here to call it gamble. You see, at one point his 577k became 247k, wiping roughly half of his gains, but then it luckily came back up. In the future though, his strategy is to park money in stocks like QQQ or Apple, and if he loses 5 or 10k on shares, he can always take a loss and buy in the money options with a much higher multiplier. That's how he's been playing. The lower the share goes and he loses money, the better he makes on options. But that's still more like gambling and less like an actual strategy. And that's simply not what the chosen one Fausterian 18 is all about. You can only truly rise above the masses and hopefully join the one and only when you use something that WallStreetBets would accuse you of witchcraft, a pure forbidden sorcery called a strategy. And there is one who found his edge, his own way of beating the market. He goes by the name of Master Wenger and he turned just $17,000 into $92,000 in 1 year. Now he was mostly trading GBTC, LTSN, MicroStrategy, DJT and more recently Tesla calls. Having that said, he also made 6.8k in just 60 minutes trading MicroStrategy calls about a month ago. And at least judging by his chart, he must have had a pretty nice and very consistent strategy. But it wasn't always like that, especially not at the beginning. You see, every time he lost money, he was chasing some Reddit post. Most money was made fading Reddit and forming his own trade ideas. And that brings us to his actual strategy. He tends to fade sentiment a lot, mostly Reddit sentiment. He doesn't do anything fancy with charts. He doesn't even look at candles. Yes, he's a truly special kind of guy, a line chart guy. He figures that's what most of retail looks at, so it helps him see and feel what they feel. A lot of his positions are loosely calculated, but calculated nonetheless. He thinks to himself, what move on this chart would rank the most people trading the underlying? Then he looks at the option chain and tries to see where the best risk to reward ratio lies. He's traded long dated options with some big wins, but he's mostly a swing trader trading 1 or 2 week still expiry options. He also likes to hedge his long options by shorting an out of the money option when he's uncertain if it will keep moving. He is still learning his style, but that's it in a nutshell. His biggest learning has been to not YOLO on some scrap DD. Instead, come up with your own plays and keep your own scorecard. But despite making a huge gain, he thinks one of the best things you can do as a trader is to step away from time to time. And now is that time for him. He was sensing that he was starting to overtrade and was losing conviction in his positions. Right now he has no opinion on where the market is going, and that's okay. And last but not least, I present to you a trader who's going to have to start secretly moving assets into his wife's name and looking for bankruptcy lawyers. He goes by the name of Oral Response 7764, and while his position was worth about $26,000, his available cash was negative $1.6 million. Naturally, he was panicking. You see, he sold a 0-day still expiry Iron Condor on SPY, which is an option strategy where you make the most amount of money when the stock doesn't move up or down and just stays neutral. But SPY went to the moon in the after hours. His brokerage exercised the long calls, so now he suddenly had 6,500 shares of SPY at $505, and Schwab told him that if the calls with a strike price at $504 don't get assigned, he's naked on the SPY SPY shares. Now luckily for him, this actually happens quite a lot. As we've seen, Schwab exercised his long calls, but the owner of the short calls didn't call his shares away until way later. So after hours of frustration and fear, all he did was realize a max loss on the trade, which was around 4.7k instead of $1.6 million. And if you want to see how this trader lost 8 years worth of savings, click on the video just popped up. If you like my content, make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.